and welcome to Moments in Faith, a ministry of Christ Church Glendale. I'm Father Declan, pastor of Christ Church, and thank you for joining us for this week's message of faith and practical insights on living well in our chaotic world. Uncle John Vassar was one of the great early circuit-riding evangelists of the mid-19th century. Born in Poughkeepsie, New York, John Vassar, yes, from Vassar College fame, left his job at the family brewery and became an agent for the American Tract Society of New York. Uncle John, as he was called, took off across the country, never resting in his mission of selling Christian literature and asking everyone he met about their relationship with Jesus Christ. On one occasion, traveling to the western frontier, he visited the home of a praying wife whose husband was not a Christian. She begged Uncle John for a Bible, and Vassar, giving her one of his, went on his way. He had no sooner left when the husband, coming home, saw the book and was enraged. Seizing the Bible with one hand and his axe in the other, he hurried to the woodpile, where he placed it on the chopping block and hacked it crosswise in two. Returning to the house, he threw the half of the destroyed Bible at his wife, saying, "As you claim part of the property around here, there is your share of this." The other half of the Bible he tossed into his tool shed. Months later, on a wet winter's morning, the man, wanting to get away from his wife, retreated to his tool shed. The time passed slowly, and in boredom, he looked around for something to read. Thumbing through the mutilated Bible, his attention was caught by the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. He became absorbed by the parable, only to discover that its ending belonged to his wife's section of the Bible. He crept into the house and secretly searched for the bottom half of that Bible he had cut, but he was unable to find where his wife had hid it. Finally, he broke down and asked her for it, and read the story of the prodigal again and again. This story of the prodigal son and of the son's loving father so touched the frontiersman that he gave his life to Christ and, like the penitent prodigal, returned home to God's love, where he always belonged. On his next trip through the region, John Vassar heard this story of how half a Bible could make an angry man whole. Let's listen to this Sunday's New Testament lesson from the Gospel according to St. Luke, the 15th chapter. I hope the parable of the prodigal will touch your life, just like the man in Uncle John Vassar's ministry. The translation we use at Christ Church is called The Message, a modern translation from the ancient texts translated by Dr. Eugene Peterson. Dr. Peterson crafted his translation to present the tone, rhythm, events, and ideas of the Bible, but in everyday language. And now, St. Luke's Gospel, chapter 15, verses 1 through 3 and 11 through 32.
A reading from the Gospel according to St. Luke. By this time, a lot of men and women of doubtful reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religious scholars were not pleased at all. They growled, "He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends." Their grumbling triggered this story. There was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger son said to his father, "Father, I want right now what's coming to me." So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all of his money, there was a bad famine all through that country, and he began to hurt. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry he would have eaten the corn cobs in that pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, "All those farm hands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day. Here I am starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, 'Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand.'" He got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced him, and kissed his son. The son started his speech, "Father, I have sinned against God. I have sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again." But the father wasn't listening. He was calling the servants. "Quick, bring the clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Get the grain-fed heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now is alive, given up for lost and is now found." They all began to have a wonderful time. All this time, his older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. As he approached the house, he heard the music and the dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked, "What was going on?" The servant told him, "Your brother has come home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef for everyone, because he has come home safe and sound." The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, "Look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours who has thrown away your money on whores shows up, and you go all out with a feast." His father said to him, "Son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that I have is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. This brother of yours was lost, and he is found." Holy One, use and overrule my words and our thoughts, so that it is your word that is spoken and your word that is heard. Amen. It is the women in my family who are the gifted storytellers. My two favorite aunts, Aunt Peggy Jo and Aunt Elaine, are superb spinners of a good yarn. I remember one story in particular from my youth told to me by my Aunt Elaine about hunting snipe. It was a summer day. I was spending several weeks of my summer with them, and we were driving into town in her Dodge car and driving along a country road with a canal, and she began to tell me this story all about hunting snipes. She told the story to me as we drove the 10 miles into Grandview, Washington, and she continued to tell me the story while we shopped through Safeway and then getting the mail in the post office, and then all the way home, she continued to tell me this wonderful story all about hunting snipe. It wasn't until that we got into the driveway that she told me that there really was no such thing as a snipe, and it was a story, and the joke was on me. Well, Aunt Elaine, I wanted